Whiskey for the Ages is not sponsored or endorsed for any product or program mentioned in this show and receive no remuneration from their creators.
Hello everybody, a warm welcome back to our Whiskey for the Ages podcast subscribers. I'm your host, Brian Dawson. Tonight, Hannah's here on my left.
Big thank you to those of you who are tuning in for the first time for our season finale.
And Alora is here on my right.
Hi guys! It has been way too long, I think about 5 months or something? Anyways, yeah, happy to be back, and I hope that you guys enjoy the show and consider subscribing to the podcast as well.
Tonight, we're closing out our 4th series, just like Hannah said, our 40th episode. Can you imagine that? 40 episodes.
Pretty crazy.
Time flies when you're having fun, people.
And we're going to do a whiskey review.
Haha, my favorite.
With something special from our bunker. In the past, we've put these out here, our listeners pick, for you guys to decide. We have some unicorns that we have stashed up in our bunker, and we let you guys pick what we're going to be drinking and reviewing for our season finales. Just to recap, our season 1, we did a Colonel Taylor barrel proof batch 10. It was very delicious.
Yes.
For season 2, we did Heaven Hill Heritage Collection 17-year-old barrel proof.
I remember that being very good.
We actually still have a tiny dreg of that left because it was just that delicious that it felt worth saving a little bit. And then our last season, season 3, we did Knob Creek 15-year-old. So you guys are liking old things and barrel proof things.
Yep.
So we're really keeping to a tradition here. We're going to do it again in this episode.
That's right. So let's get going. So as Hannah said, we opened our bunker. We selected 4 whiskeys from which our listeners could pick. I posted the surveys up on our Facebook and LinkedIn social media platforms. And this series options were Blood Oath Packed 11, a Woodford Reserve Batch Proof, Heaven Hill Grain to Glass Rye, and Kentucky Owl Confiscated. Now that Kentucky Owl Confiscated was one that was suggested by one of our listeners, so we made sure to put that into the poll.
And that one is also on our closeout shelves over here because Kentucky Owl has filed bankruptcy and they're not going to be continuing production on their line anymore. We do still have that one. I'll let you guys know that it did not win tonight. We are still intending on reviewing it to make sure that we give it its moment before it's completely disappeared from the shelves.
I certainly will review it because I don't know if you guys really caught it last episode. I'm very fond of owls, so of course I was saddened that this did not win, but it's okay. You know, like I say, we have it. We'll do a review on it.
There you
I'll
go.
pick something that relates to birds in my music selection. I don't know.
All right, so listeners, at number 2, the runner-up with just shy of 29% of the vote, Woodford Reserve Batch Proof.
That doesn't surprise me. I figured that one was going to come in at number 1 or number 2.
And the one we're going to review tonight, carrying just over 37% of the vote, which I thought was pretty remarkable, is the Heaven Hill Grain to Glass Rye.
But Hannah's very happy about
I am
that.
pretty happy about it. I was rooting for either this one or that Blood Oath to get it. I'm kind of pleased that it's the rye this time around just because this season has been sort of a rye-dominated season, and it feels right for it to be closed out with the rye.
And the other selections that we were going to vote on, plus other seasons, they were more bourbons, right? So this one would be our first rye review that we're reviewing at the end of the season.
That's a good point.
Very good, very good. So our Heaven Hill Grain to Glass Rye, its classification is a Kentucky straight rye whiskey put out by, obviously, Heaven Hill Distillery in Bardstown, Kentucky. That mash bill on this one is 63% rye, 24% corn, and this corn is kind of a special corn. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And 13% malt barley. Of course, it's new charred American oak with a barrel char of number 3 and a barrel entry proof of 107. Kind of keep that in your mind here. Barrel proof of 107. Age on this one, 6 years old. It was non-chill filtered. And get this, the ABV after 6 years in the barrel is 61.6% or 123.2 proof.
It grew up.
A lot of evaporation must have occurred to get it to that ABV. This was released in the fall of last year, fall of 2024. Availability, it was a limited national and annual release. Now this is going to come out every year, and we'll talk about how it's come to be here in just a moment. MSRP $99.99 in 2024 when it was released. Did some looking on the internet, a fair price, about $110 to $115 according to Booze App. Secondary prices on this one are all over the board. I saw some people trying to sell it for $290. That's just ridiculous. Secondary price $130 to $190 was fairly common. And of course, we paid here in Idaho $99.95 here in the winter of 2025. I think I bought it in January,
That
if I'm
sounds right.
not
Yeah.
mistaken. So the way we're going to enjoy this one, we have poured about 3.5–4 ounces into our Glencairns. That's our review amounts whenever we do a review. And we're going to enjoy them neat. So, enough of my talking. On the nose. Girls, what are you sensing?
I'll go first. I smelled powdered cane sugar right off the bat. Like, not really necessarily table sugar, powdered sugar. It's a lot sweeter, I think. I also got a hint of chocolate cake, which is odd because I've never really gotten that out of this. Overall, this is smelling like a very, very sweet rye. It's almost leaning towards like a bourbon-y smell than a rye smell. That being said, I do smell the characteristic rye bread, a little bit of that. I also get an aroma of plums and then caramelized candied maraschino cherries. Pretty sweet, a hint of bread, sugary. Hannah, what do you have?
You know, we're actually not that far off
Really?
between each other this time. This one is probably the most sugary rye that I've ever smelled, and it doesn't really smell like a characteristic rye, which would be really fresh, a little bit zingy even, or spicy. This one is very sugary. I get what you're saying with the powdered sugar. I put that down after you mentioned it because I think that's definitely there. The thing that stood out to me the most was I got caramel, I got malt. Those two things kind of combined a little bit later in my mind to smell almost like a Twix bar. There's just something there that screams millionaire shortbread, and you mentioned chocolate as well.
Yeah.
And that kind of overlaps there, although I think you mentioned it as a cake. I also got a cake element, but it wasn't chocolate cake. It was actually, believe it or not, carrot cake.
Oh, okay, I see that.
Only because there was like a hint of nutmeg going on in there, and I associate that spice mostly with a carrot cake type thing. It's warm. I don't think the alcohol is particularly biting or offensive here, despite it being over 120 proof. I would usually expect to have my nose hairs twinged a little bit. I don't get that sensation on this one.
They wanted to for me. Like when I stuck my nose in there, because I was like, oh, I'm not getting a whole lot. Okay, it's there. Like I would feel the nose hairs, you know, kind of feel like they wanted to burn off.
Yeah.
But only when I would stick my nose really in there would it feel like that.
Yeah.
So I too am going through our nosing, and I'm not getting a burn at all.
No, I'm not either. I think there's like if I had to pin it down to something that was a little bit more spicy, I might lean towards a white pepper. That one is generally associated with sweeter flavors, so I think it fits in well here. If I'm really, really hunting for a grain, I guess I can get a little bit of grass, but I gotta hunt for it. And it's more like hay than it is like grass.
So more earthy.
Yeah, I think it's
Herbal.
more, yeah.
But it's really, really sweet. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if I were to smell this and want to say that it was a type of grass, I'd probably say closer to alfalfa than normal grass, because that's more
interesting.
Yeah.
well, it's more sugary. For those of you who are brand new to this, I mentioned that I worked at a sort of agricultural farm supply store a little bit, so I know the smell of alfalfa.
Well, the aromas that you girls have pulled out, I'm going to mimic. You know, I see your sugar. I don't know that I'd go powdered sugar, but it is very sweet. Cake, maybe more of a vanilla cake for me. Very bourbon-esque, like you said, Laura. Very much like a bourbon.
If you were to give this to me and ask me to determine if it were a rye or a bourbon, I'd probably sooner say bourbon.
I agree with you.
At least on the nose.
At least on the nose.
See
We have
how-
no idea about the taste
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
Right. Simple syrup. Kind of sugar and water.
Okay. Maybe
I
corn
really-
syrup too.
Yeah, maybe. I do get those chocolate notes. Definitely vanilla notes. I get some allspice mixed in with your nutmeg, Hannah.
Okay.
And I too get that white pepper, but also some rye. Obviously some rye. There's, 63% of rye in this mash bill.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of rye.
I'd sooner
And-
say a word like dark rye bread, honestly, than white. Like a rye bread that has maybe molasses in it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I get that.
Or malt.
Yeah.
Very much so. They're very good. Heaven Hill grain to glass rye production details. So let's talk a little bit about this particular product. It is different than Heaven Hill's regular ryes. I mean, they've got rye products out there. We'll talk a little bit about those in a bit. But the grain to glass series is an experimental series. But with it, they are being very transparent with what it is, and they're also tracing things. They're showcasing a unique mash bill here with a specific grain varietal. Now, all of their grain to glass series is working with a corn varietal. Beck's is a hybrid seed corn company, and basically what they are doing is making seed corns available for the whiskey industry. And this particular varietal is a 6158 corn seed. It was grown in collaboration with Beck's Hybrids and Peterson Farms in Nelson County, Kentucky. Funny enough, it's directly across the road from the rick houses in which it was stored.
Oh, okay.
So the terroir is
Yeah.
going to be very influential here. This 6158 seed corn was chosen specifically because of its high starch content. The high starch content helps the barley react with the yeast and make it have more flavor. This rye was distilled back in 2017. The barrels were charred to a level number 3, and just so you know, a char level number 3, they burn the inside of the barrel for about 40 seconds, which leaves about a 1/4-inch deep layer of char inside the barrel.
Doesn't result in that alligator char.
Not quite. It's not deep enough.
Right.
The process caramelizes the oak sugars and creates a dense layer of smoky sweetness. And that number 3 helps balance the flavor extraction from the oak. Now, Heaven Hill does all their barrels in a number 3. They generally don't go real heavy. The barrel proof entry on that release, as I mentioned before, was 107, which is a long way from what Heaven Hill typically does. They're normally putting the whiskeys into their barrels at 125 proof. The 107 is a throwback to their early years, their early production years. That's what they started out with, pre-prohibition. Lower barrel entry proof influences the whiskey's flavor and profile, and that's said to allow for greater interaction between the spirits and the wood.
That's really interesting. 107 as a barrel entry proof really is rare, and it's not just exclusive to Heaven Hill. It's really the majority of those who are producing bourbon. They'll go up to that 125. The one group that usually doesn't is Maker's Mark.
And Michter's.
And Michter's. And they hover at around, what is it, 110?
Michter's is right about 104, really low. But Maker's is, you're right. No,
right around 110.
110.
And at least Michter's is kind of like a hit or miss. I can either have a really great bottle of Michter's, or I could have one that doesn't quite hit the nail on the head. But Maker's, their whole premise really is about their aging and how the aging affects what's going on in the flavor.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to say what I'm tasting yet, but I can see here with this 107 barrel entry proof on this Heaven Hill, there's a relation there.
So right across the field from the corn, Heaven Hill's Rickhouse W3, and this was aged on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors of this warehouse. The whiskey is bottled at barrel proof without that chill filtration, allowing the full character of this spirit to shine. Bottle size on this one, I hate this trend, but 700 milliliters rather than the 750.
It's to make it work with European bottlings. That's
Absolutely.
What that is.
So Hannah, I'm going to put you up first.
Good, because I'm still detailing.
What do you taste?
This is really complicated. The first sip I had was immediately, oh, that is a rye. And I put a very large period after that sentence in my notes. That is a rye. It is really fresh, although right now it's still kind of difficult for me to identify the source of that freshness, although I will say I think that this is significantly more earthy than I was expecting, to the point where there's even a sense of petrichor, that smell that comes after rainfall, where everything is just kind of dirty and rainy but also clean at the same time. That comes into play here. Mouthfeel, this is oily. This is really, 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 really oily. I like that feature about it. Alcohol is certainly a little bit more punchy here than it was on the nose. It's trying to get me. I think if I sit with this one long enough, maybe here even in this episode, I might get a hug. We'll see. I'm going to try to avoid that. I hate getting hugged by whiskey, but it's never really in my power to control that. I get a little bit of cherry. Maybe something that ties the palate closer to the finish perhaps, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. I say it's really complicated because, as I'm sure you guys noticed as I was listing all of that off, that has little to no relation of what I experienced on the nose. And if anybody knows me, I get a little bit, I suppose the word is perturbed, when there's not a match between the nose and the palate. Even if I end up enjoying the palate more than I thought I would from the nose, if that makes sense. Like I was expecting something much more sugary on the palate. And so there's a disturbance in the balance here for me on that front. But I do like the palate. It just really, really threw me. And I don't like it when they throw me like that. I really want to get down to the bottom of what I think the freshness component is here, so I'm going to pass it off to Alora now on what she's getting on the palate, so maybe I can figure my situation out with this freshness and how I'm able to say that's a rye, period.
I wish I could help you. I don't know if I can.
Well, go for it.
I'll try.
You're not going to hurt it.
No, I don't know, man. I might. I'd say I agree with you, Hannah. This is definitely more of a rye, but I also very much agree with you. This is hard. I'm having a really hard time picking out flavors that are actually more on the edible side. I'm getting a lot of earthy
Yeah.
or like wrote down petrichor as soon as he said it because I'm like, okay, I can kind of see that steering me into a direction that I agree with.
Yeah.
But, well, like I said it was more bread-like. I still lean heavily towards rye bread out of all of them, which makes sense because it is a rye. I did put down white pepper and brine because it definitely smelled a little bit more like it had that extra seasoning. And I kind of want to say that it's a seasoning more than an actual taste. I can't identify what kind. I did put down a tiny little hint of chocolate. I'm going to say that it's not chocolate cake. I'd say it's a very bitter kind of chocolate, but it's also mixed with almonds. I got a little bit of almonds. Another thing, and this is where I started really struggling, I got a big corn element, like corn syrup.
That's interesting because
Yeah.
this is
I
a rye.
I keep getting corn though, even in the smell. And then I wrote down alcohol, like ethanol. I got a bit of that. I got corn syrup. And then just as you were finishing up, Hannah, I got a little bit of charcoal from it. So that's where I'm at. I'm having a hard time labeling edible flavors, and I'm more just kind of tasting what I usually smell out in nature, if that makes sense to everybody.
I get what you're saying there for sure.
Dad, what do you have? Maybe something a little more cohesive.
I'm not certain I'm drinking the same thing you guys are drinking.
So are you saying that me and Hannah are actually agreeing and you and I are disagreeing?
That's what I'm saying.
That's not common.
Actually, it's more common.
No, you and Dad usually agree.
We're-
Yeah, and now we're disagreeing.
I know.
So when I take my first sip of any whiskey, I try to hold it in my mouth as long as I can. Without swallowing, I just put it in my mouth. And I had no trouble holding this for as long as I wanted to.
I don't experience that. I mean, I try to do that too, but I didn't get that same.
My tongue gets a little tickled, for sure, but it is not in any way aggressive for me. Hannah, I agree with you. It's very oily. But for me, it's oily because I've been holding it in my mouth, and the saliva just goes crazy. I just keep pumping more and more and more saliva in it. I taste a woodiness here, but
Yeah.
it's not char. Maybe it is oaky, but it's woody. I don't know how else to describe it.
I've gone on to now add to my notes that there's a spicy oak
Okay.
with like some cinnamon almost with it.
And it's fresh and clean. Obviously very fresh and clean. That rye component, and there's a flavor there that I can't spot. I've been
We're
going
all
around,
having
I'm
difficulty.
going around the
What
wheel,
is this flavor?
and I really like it. I like that flavor, whatever it is.
Could it be cornbread? I don't know.
I'm not getting that.
No.
That's what I'm getting in the finish.
Earthy, yes. Dried fruit, maybe an apricot.
I have to taste it in order to determine
I'm not
that.
getting dried fruit like a raisin, like a dark something. I'm not getting dried blueberries or apples or anything like that.
Okay.
It's a stone fruit of some sort. And
Like
it
a
plums?
fruit leather.
no, I'm sticking with my dried apricots.
Because I could see a fruit leather
Maybe
element.
dried apple.
Maybe fig.
There's a possibility.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know what? That's pretty strong. Because
Yeah.
that does taste a little bit like a fig Newton.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about
Ugh,
fig
I
Newton.
don't like fig Newtons at all.
I like fig Newtons.
Well, you like fruit, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not as sweet as the nose.
No.
Wherever that sweetness was coming from on the nose, it's just not there now.
If I get any sort of hint of what's on the nose, I'd say I'd sooner find it as like it's a candied something, like candied apricot, maybe candied figs, but I do not get powdered sugar like I got in the nose.
I'm getting your bitter chocolate, Hannah, but this time it's like bittersweet chocolate nibs. You know,
Yeah.
the things that go in
Yeah.
your chocolate chips. And honeyed crackers.
You know what? I actually got a little bit of honey.
And not honeyed crackers like graham crackers, but like if somebody had put honey on a saltine. It's just an interesting flavor.
You know what? They're like sopapillas.
Okay. I haven't had a sopapilla in
20 years.
20 years.
It's been about that long. For the audience,
Yes.
let's explain what those are. Because that would not be a common food for a lot of people.
Right, yeah. It's a honey pastry. I know.
It's like a fried tortilla that you deck out in a little bit of honey, some cinnamon, and then you put a dollop of whipped cream on it, essentially. They're obviously a dessert item. They are very delicious, and it has been a long time
20 years,
since
I
we've
think.
had them. I don't get that at all here. Not even close
I-
do I get that over.
When
here.
we would go, I wouldn't be the biggest fan of them, to be perfectly honest with you both. I didn't really like honey back then, and now I put it in my tea, and it's great, so.
I really like sopapillas. I wish I could get that here. I'm not. I've found some cinnamon as we've gone through and some leather. This is really a complex offering, and it's still really hard for me to feel like I've nailed it. As far as me trying to identify whatever the freshness is, the closest I've really been able to get is if it was like a really old, almost stale mint.
Oh, okay. Like a wintergreen mint or a spearmint?
Neither. Like just mint.
Okay,
So
like
it's,
what you put in your water then.
yeah, like what you put in your water. Maybe even a really stale eucalyptus, because there's something just hearty about it, in my opinion. And it also is not stopping with this incessant need to give me a hug. I've probably fought off 3 or 4 by now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
I'm just not getting that.
I get it. I
it's-
feel you.
I'm really shocked by it because I'm a very regular drinker of high proof offerings. I love proof. I could drink something that's close to 130 proof and not have the same kind of difficulty that I'm experiencing with this one right now. This one is trying to mess with me. I think it's getting a sick enjoyment out of it. In this family, I
You get the most
undoubtedly
hugs.
the rye queen, and I feel a little bit attacked by my own kind here with this one. Like, don't you know who your master is? You need to submit and settle down, Grand Glass Rye. It's coming at me in hot. It's a lot.
Meanwhile, it's been a while since I've had. It's been a while since I've had bourbon or rye that's been really, really high proof. So I was thinking like, oh, this will be nothing to them, but I'm really feeling it. And Hannah, it makes me happy that you're feeling it, because I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy.
Make no mistake, it's warm,
Yeah.
but it's not hot. I'm not getting the heat.
I don't know.
I think it's hot over a long period of time.
I
If you were to
really-
continue drinking it, then it'd be hot.
Yeah.
I really, really like what it's doing to my throat. It's just interesting the two of you are
Yeah.
saying this.
Yeah.
So, what about the balance? Body, our feel. Hannah, you
It's
mentioned
certainly
it's
a lot.
got a nice mouthfeel, toily.
Very oily.
But what about the balance here? What are we feeling as a balance?
Well, I think that it's got a pretty long finish, in my opinion. And the sugary notes that I was smelling in the beginning, I think happen in the last part of the finish, for me, personally. But even then, I have to really hunt for something like that. Like, if I were to get any sort of a sugary element in the finish, I'd say it's more table sugar than powdered sugar. But as far as the balance goes, I don't know. It's hard for me to pick out flavors, and because of that, it's a little hard to figure out if it balances in my definition or if not.
Yeah, I think that, as I mentioned, this is very complex. There's a lot going on here, and if you're someone who likes to hunt for flavors or have that
Me.
kind of experience, this one would be something that's right up your alley. I don't mind hunting for flavors as long as I can eventually identify them, and I'm really kind of struggling with that.
Well,
here.
I really like to hunt for flavors, and I'm having a really hard time identifying said flavors.
Right. So, and as I also mentioned, I really prefer it when the nose and the palate match up. When I have the nose tell me a little prelude to what I should expect on the palate. That hasn't happened here at all, quite honestly. Even though I like the palate, I don't know if I can really say that this has got a great balance. It feels heavy-handed on the burn, and it feels like it's trying to find itself a story, an identity. And it's the nose is bourbon, the palate's rye, and it's hot.
You know, this would go well with gin, because I just got a really strong, like, rose floral scent and taste in it.
All right, we've not talked about this much on our podcast. I do not know the order of which one got, who got what pour. I did not break up the pours tonight. I poured one glass, I poured a second glass, and I poured a third glass. I wonder, Hannah, if you got the first glass.
I don't know.
The first pour.
We'll take a sip out of my glass and see if it's the same story that's in yours.
Ooh, that's a new idea. Hannah, take a sip of mine.
Hold, please, everyone.
Yeah, we're doing something that we've never done before. We're tasting each other's.
I'm still consistent.
That's different. Allure's is really
That's
different.
Wow.
That's different.
We got 3 different pours. How about that? I do detect
Let
a
me
little
try.
bit more heat out of yours, Hannah, but it's not significantly more.
Can I try yours, Hannah?
Yours is different too, Dad.
Mine might be the last glass.
Yeah, I think it is. Yours is the sweetest out of the bunch, for sure.
Wow.
And I think that mine is the hottest out of the bunch.
Yeah, it is.
That is really wild.
Yeah, it is.
Normally when we pour, I pour a little bit in each glass and then I go back and start over. I mix them up a little bit. Tonight I just poured. Interesting. That is really interesting. It is warmer. Yours is warmer.
And yours is so much more sweet.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's the same stuff.
Science.
Yeah.
It's the same
Science,
stuff.
chemistry.
So for me, the nose is balanced. The palate is balanced, but the nose is not balanced with the palate.
That's a good way to word it.
Okay? The body, it's an interesting body. It looks in the glass. If I'm looking at it, there are some legs. There is an inverted crown here. It does cling, but it's not a lot of legs in the glass.
It looks like a lot of droplets to me.
A lot of drops.
How I compared the legs was they look like snowflakes or dust falling rather than like straight legs. And the crown to me looked very distinguished. Like I can tell easily where the crown is, and I'm sitting far away from my glass.
But as soon as you take a sip, the dregs from the sip break into legs and they drop evenly. They're evenly spaced, maybe a little crooked, but evenly spaced to go back into the pool. And I don't know if you guys have thought about color at all, but I'm thinking that this is kind of light in color.
Yeah, I said between honey and tawny.
I'm looking right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's in that carrot vein, maybe.
I like tawny. And the colors that we're referencing, everyone, are from our Whiskey Traits and Flavor Wheel. You can find that as a free PDF on our website. We have a whole little block in there for tools, and we have that for you to download for whenever you're tasting anything. It's we use this all the time for our reviews. Makes it really easy. Right now, it's not making it much easier, but
No.
it's definitely a great tool if you feel like you're on the track of where to go with whatever it is you're tasting, smelling, or experiencing in the finish.
One of our
Absolutely,
previous
yeah.
podcast episodes, we talked about how to review bourbons. We talk about this flavor wheel in that
Yeah.
episode. So, yeah, absolutely. Just go to the website, take a free download,
I will say, if you disagree with us with the color, that's totally cool. I disagree with these two all the time on color, and that just is because the lighting I'm looking at from my bourbon is different from theirs. So, I mean, you could say that it's dark. You could say it's even lighter than what we've suggested. It's really up to you and what your lighting is wherever you're drinking it.
So before we go on to the finish, I'm going to open it up a little bit more here. Heaven Hill's Grain to Glass Rye is an experimental project. It's basically showing Heaven Hill's willingness to tinker. But there are several ryes. They're staples. Elijah Craig Rye, Pikesville Rye, Rittenhouse Rye. I mean, they're all favorites, Hannah.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, this may be a little bit premature here. When I pulled this grain to glass rye and put it next to those other three, Pikesville is my favorite.
Interesting.
I love Pikesville rye. That one is just, and then probably second would be Rittenhouse, but Rittenhouse mostly because it's just one of the best value ryes you're going to find on the market.
So, of these three, the Elijah Craig, Pikesville, and Rittenhouse, they all have a mash bill of 51% rye and 39% corn, with that 10% malt barley component. This Heaven Hill is 63% rye, 24% corn, and 13% malt barley. A lot more corn in those other three.
Yeah.
So you've got a barrel entry proof on those three of 125, where it's only 107 here. I'm really amazed they were able to get it up to 123 proof.
Especially for
I mean,
rye.
that's just crazy
It's
to me.
a lot of evaporation.
The bottling on the three, 94 proof on the Elijah Craig, 110 on the Pikesville, and 100 proof on the Rittenhouse. Pricing, Elijah Craig, around $35. The Pikesville, most expensive of the three, is $60. And then the Rittenhouse, I'm not sure if it's $30 or not. I believe it's even lower than that in a lot of places. Heaven Hill's Grain to Glass, we've got that 63% rye, as I mentioned, the 107 barrel proof entry, 123 proof, and it's priced the highest of the group here at $100.
That's a big jump.
Yeah.
But it is experimental, so that's, again, not something that's unique to Heaven Hill. Whenever there's experimentation afoot, you can expect some higher price points
Pay extra.
for that limited offering.
So what about the finish? I'm going to start.
Go ahead.
I
go
still feel the last sip I had, and that last sip was easily 4 or 5 minutes ago.
It's
Yeah.
a long finish.
It
It's
is
a
a long
really
finish.
long finish. The flavors that are there from the palate kind of blend in. There is a tiny bit of sweetness there, like you mentioned, Laura, earlier. I get that woodiness again.
Yeah, I just wrote down oak myself.
And I gotta say, I like what it's done. I think the finish is more balanced with the palate than it is with the aroma.
Yep.
This is interesting. Frankly, I'm hoping you guys don't like this so I can finish it.
I never said I don't like it. It's
Yeah.
just really thrown me a curveball
Yeah.
that I wasn't expecting from someone in the rye family.
Well,
It's trying to mess with me. This finish to me is, how do I want to word it? The components of it definitely are more balanced out with the palate than with the nose. However, I will say that the finish is more akin to a bourbon finish, just like the nose was more akin to a bourbon nose. There's a lot of oak that I'm getting coming from the back, and this is, it's also been a while since I've had a sip, and I'm getting that oak. I think the grain is coming forward a little bit more for me as well. I don't know if I want to go all the way to say that it's a rye. I might loop back to my earlier comment about hay. I still get some cinnamon though, like what I was getting on the palate, and now it's almost more like the cinnamon flavor you would get in like a red hot candy. And that's the more immediate essence of the finish. It's not there to linger for a really long time, but you take a sip, 2-3 minutes later, that's the sort of flavor that I'm getting. It's nice. It is a very long finish. I don't mind it at all. I think it's a good finish. It's still throwing me for a loop and making me have to think a little bit about what's going on here.
It's very good.
Laura, what about you?
I think I agree with you both. It is a very long finish. I still kind of get that sweet corn element that I was getting. I still feel a remnant of it, and it's been quite a long while since I've taken a sip. I feel a tiny bit of the floral element that I was getting. Overall, I mean, this is a very I don't know rye for me. And what I mean by that is it's still confusing me. I see that it's $100 and, you know, I'm honestly thinking like I might need more of it to really discover like if I need like to get it again. I know I'm kind of jumping the gun when I say it, but in terms of like whether I would get it again or whether I would buy it, it's just, I don't know. I think it's confusing me tonight with my specific pour, but maybe later on, because clearly we tested something out where all of us, you know, tried each other's ryes. Maybe it'd be different the next time.
Interesting.
Yeah. Dad
So-
just poured something in everyone's
Yeah,
glasses.
We typically will add a little bit of water during our reviews on products that are over 120 proof. So I've taken some distilled water and dropped 2 drops into what's left of our glasses. If I were to guess, it's probably 1.5 ounces or thereabouts.
We're all about even, actually.
Interesting. What's it going to smell like at 2 drops of water?
I think it opens it up to more fruit.
It does. It does.
There's more cherry note here this time. Oak, I think, is here a little bit more now. And now there's almost a savory element as well. I don't know, I think it's a bit briny. We mentioned that a bit earlier, but it was more in relation to the palate. But there is something briny, and it's contributing to a savory element. I can't quite.
I get more of
Pick it
that
out.
allspice.
Okay.
I'm blending all with allspice, cinnamon, nutmeg, just flavors. How about you, Laura? Did you detect anything different?
It's still pretty sweet to me. I'd say it still hints to what I originally got before with the sugary element. Again, it's still smelling a lot like bourbon to me. It still smells of that sugary caramelness that I usually get from a bourbon. And I get even less of the dark rye bread and actually more of like a honey wheat cracked bread, to be honest.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm picking up more mint now, and into that dried apricot that I'd mentioned earlier, and more honey, maybe honey on a rye bread. Now, both you girls have mentioned bread before, the rye component. To me now, I've got that honeyed rye bread, maybe almost to the degree that, Laura, you made rye bread and you put honey in it to get that yeast activated.
I stopped putting in table sugar for my breads, like all of them. I'll just use honey, and I don't know how it compares to any other breads that I bake, whether honey is better or worse than table sugar. All I know is that the yeast likes it. It foams up. I'm happy. So I'm not too picky. I will say, water makes it sweeter. I tasted a little bit of it.
I think so too. It does make it sweeter. Hannah, where are you gonna drink this? What setting?
I'm still trying to figure out the palate on this 2 drops
Oh,
of water. I prefer it neat, even though it punched me around a little bit more when it was just neat. It just feels more like it's lacking something. I get the bread element finally to this. This is the first time I've gotten it this whole time. But that's almost all I get. I feel like a lot of the complexity here has been stripped away by the water. So even though it's made it more temperate to drink, it hasn't really done a whole lot for my taste buds and the journey that they want to go on. As far as where I want to drink this, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Okay.
This one has just been confusing me start to finish. So, of course, the setting, no doubt, has to have some level of confusion in it as well. So I have
certainly
to
get that. Put you on the spot.
Yeah, so I have to think of a confusing place, that'll match the energy of what this one is trying to be. I do think there's more mint here as well, though. I will say that. I think there's more mint.
I don't know that adding water has helped this.
I think it hurt it.
Of the 3 glasses that we've had, we've all kind of come to the consensus mine is the most mild.
Yeah.
And Hannah's was the brightest. I don't notice a whole lot of difference in my pour, but I don't think the water helped it at all.
For my palate, it is making it more of a candied, sugary sweetness. I've decided that I liked it before. I think it helps. The water helps me personally because I am able to get more of a sugary, caramely
And that's your
scent and
wheelhouse.
taste.
That's
Yeah,
your
it's just
wheelhouse.
my wheelhouse. And that doesn't mean like any of the other flavors aren't there. Like, I'm still confused. I'm still confused on what exactly I'm getting. I'm struggling on the mint element unless I really, really hunt for it.
Have you thought about any music?
I have a little bit. I feel very distinguished when I drink this.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like a sort of posh person, like, oh, I'm drinking this excellent rye, like something like that. The songs that I chose, I usually like to pick a song from popular repertoire, not pop, just more popularly listened to music. And then I also pick a more symphonic or orchestral selection. And as I was drinking this, I was thinking of Queen Ella Fitzgerald. Queen Ella. I love her. And I was thinking of her Summertime and her Christmas song. So I don't really know which one I would choose. Her Christmas song is like the chestnuts roasting on an open fire. I never remember like what exactly that song is called, but I love it. I think both of those are really, really gorgeous songs, and I'd be happy to listen to those. As for my symphonic / orchestral one, neither one of these two know this song, I don't think. It's from an ensemble called Two Steps from Hell.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I think I know.
Yeah, and the song I chose is Strength of 1,000 Men. It's a popular one of their songs. It's not the most popular. Most people, if they listen to any one of their stuff, they're going to hear Heart of Courage. And I think I've actually selected that song before on a different bourbon or a different whiskey, but it would have been a much older review. So this one I wanted to be a little different, and I chose Strength of 1,000 Men. It's pretty similar to Heart of Courage, but I think it's a bit more in your face, to be honest. I feel like this rye is a very much in your face and really trying to express what it is.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. So people who want to listen to those 2 songs, I'll put links up on our podcast webpage to where you can go there and download and listen to those songs.
Cool, yeah. And I will do my best to post a review. I'm so sorry.
We've all been kind of
lackadaisical.
These people have actually been more about it than me. I think it's been at least a year since I posted
it's
a
probably
review.
been that thereabouts for us as well. I have thought of a setting.
Okay.
I'm putting this one also in a slightly sophisticated but still confusing sort of place, okay? So I want to go to, I believe it's in Arizona, might be in Nevada, not positive. But there's a huge observatory where there's a whole bunch of telescopes
Probably
looking
Arizona.
out into deep space. And I want to sit with all those huge
dishes.
The dishes.
Okay.
And those huge, huge telescopes looking out into deep space. And I just want to sit right there in the middle of the night. Clear night, I want to be able to see all the stars and be thinking, are there UFOs looking down on me at this moment? That's what I want to do with this particular one.
You've not ventured into a space observatory with your settings
Wow.
yet.
I don't want to go in the observatory. I want
wanna
to be
be
outside.
outside
I want
with
to
the
be
dishes.
outside. I want to be outside with the dishes, just like Jodie Foster does in the movie Contact.
Very cool.
That's what I want to do with this one.
Very cool.
Because I think that one could, sharpen the mind a little bit, but also leave enough room for something crazy to happen.
Very cool.
Might be that in New Mexico.
I think it is.
I think it is in New Mexico.
Because they
I
had
just know that
Roswell and that whole thing.
But that's
somewhere in wherever that place is. That's
Yeah.
where I want to be.
so 2 hard parts left. Is it worth the price?
This was 100, right?
Yes.
I don't know. And I'm genuinely saying I don't know. I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying no. It's just I feel like I'd have to have a different portion of the bottle and another pour in order to be able to really determine that.
Anna?
I gotta say no. It's experimental, so I'll give it its moment to be more pricey than the other 3 we talked about. But Pikesville is just so much better than this one, in my opinion. It's still got the complexity. It's still got the brightness that you'd want from a rye, and even a little bit of the proof, because it sits at 110 and it's $60, which is $40 cheaper than this one. I wouldn't pay more than $80 for this bottle. For this Heaven Hill grain to glass rye, I would not pay more than $80. 100 is a big ask, and if you're gonna make me pay $100, you gotta wow my socks off, and I don't really feel that way with this one.
Fair enough.
What about you? Do you think this is worth $100?
I think it's worth $100 all day long. I really do.
That's interesting.
And the reason why I say that is because it is experimental, but it's doing something that I really, really like. I like the flavor on this. I'm not so hung up that the nose doesn't follow the flavor. I like the finish. The finish just is everlasting. It just doesn't quit. All right, rating.
You guys go
You
first.
go first, Dad.
All right, I'm giving it a solid 92.
Holy crap.
And in fact, if I were to say a solid 92, on any given day, I might say even higher. But some of the ones in my 92 that are frankly reasonably and readily available, Old Ezra, the 7-year.
That's a phenomenal
That is such a great bourbon.
We have the rye of that. We just haven't cracked it open.
I've got quite a few barrel proof products. The Elijah Craig and the Bookers, I've got quite a few in there. I have a border bourbon, a cask strength border bourbon that I really liked. Bell Mead Cask Strength Reserve.
Wow. This is just
J.
throwing me for a loop
J. Henry 7-year.
that this one could sit with those guys.
I'm very happy with this.
This is so weird. This has got to be the upset of the season, that you would end up liking a rye more than I do. Because I'll tell you right now, my rating on this one is actually an 89.
Wow.
So it didn't crack the 90 category for me. And looking at what I have here in my 89 category, I think it sits right. I have a 1792 12-year. I have the single barrel and small batch versions of Colonel Taylor, Dry Fly 101. I've got a couple of Elijah Craig barrel proofs. I do have the Elijah Craig straight rye sitting at an 89. And you know what? That kind of adds up though, because I said Pikesville is my
Yeah.
favorite. Rittenhouse is probably
What
my
is your
second.
Pikesville?
Let's look. I gotta find it.
This gives me time to do my maths.
I'm trying to find it here. I know I've rated this one, so it should appear somewhere. Oh, you know what? That's crazy. I actually put the Pikesville as an 89 as well. If I could go back and change that, I would go back and change that. That one's really.
We all have those whiskeys we've rated and then look at it every time and go, why?
Why did I do that?
Well, it's because, like, if I were to go back into any one of my reviews, I imagine my taste buds have changed since I started reviewing.
That's
Your
very
taste
true.
buds change every 7 years.
7 years or so.
And
I've got a couple of Maker's Marks. The Old Elk bourbon, which doesn't really stand out in my mind now as being any kind of remarkable. I've got a George Dickel Barrel Select as an 89. I do remember the Barrel Select being far superior than the standard offering of that. And then the Four Roses Single Barrel as well, which I probably would give a higher rating now also if I could go back and review it again. This one, I'm happy to leave it at an 89 though, knowing what I know now and having the experience that I do with the whiskeys.
Laura?
Your turn.
I did me maths, and do not mistake me and say that I don't like this, because I do, I just don't know what to think about it. I rated it an 85.
Okay.
And I have no idea what I have in mine.
Well, you don't have as many reviews.
That's very true.
Fair enough. So I like it the most.
Yeah.
More for me.
I'll still,
I'll still go for it.
Yeah. I think Laura hit the nail on the head with it, that it's so confusing right now that I want to be able to come back to it at a later date and give it another go. And I probably will end up liking it more then, because we've got some air introduced into the bottle now that it's open. Hopefully the flavors in there have evened out and all of the remaining pours are going to be more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
That's if you believe in that.
Well, we just did that experiment.
Yeah.
We just did that experiment that we've never done before. In
Right.
which case we tasted each other's. So, and you guys heard, we got different things out of each one of our glasses.
It's an interesting phenomenon that sometimes I'm sure many people out there are like, yeah, they just totally did confirmation bias though. And maybe we did. Maybe that's something that we need to think about for a future episode to delve into a little more.
Perhaps we do like a review experiment, in which case, I mean, we usually stay pretty quiet whenever we do reviews. But maybe if we're all doing a review together, part of what our next section is, let's switch.
Maybe we need to do blind reviews.
Yeah.
Choose.
But then again, I go into each one of these reviews blind. I just take whatever you give me.
Yeah.
But we could go back and hit up some of the reviews that we've already done.
And do them again. Well, very cool.
You know.
Looking forward to Heaven Hill's Grain to Glass Rye 2025. See how they differ. That'll be out in the
As
fall.
well as their bourbon, don't they have?
They have a bourbon and they have a wheated bourbon.
I'm always very impressed with their bourbons.
Yeah, so that'll be something to hopefully look into, see how they compare.
Well, that was fun. So let's get on to this fortnight whiskey. I've got 3 whiskey stories. First one, are wine and spirits behind when it comes to AI?
Is everything behind?
When it comes to AI.
I think is the bigger question.
This past March, experts at the ProWen 2025 Spirits Festival in, I believe in Europe somewhere, I believe it was in London, but I could be mistaken, Anyway, these experts engaged in a panel discussion at the Spirits Business Hub. The Spirits Business is a news hub. They gather stories of spirits from around the world.
Okay.
ProWen is the world's leading wine and spirits trade fair. This year, more than 5,000 exhibitors chose to exhibit. They're from 65 different countries. One of the many discussions was about AI, and specifically there was a session that was called How AI-Driven Software is Driving Personal Experiences. Spirits and hospitality professionals weighed in on how to harness the power of AI. So almost everybody has played with ChatGPT at least once. I don't know if you two have, but you both know.
I've been forced to.
But I enjoy it. I've played with things like make an image of me so that I look like something that could be on The Simpsons.
He's done action figures, Simpsons, South Park, and Lord of the Rings. He was a dwarf on Lord of the Rings. It was iconic.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But I do it for other things as well. If I just want, frankly, if I want to look something up, I don't go to Google anymore. I just go to ChatGPT and I ask it to cite its sources so that I can verify that it's giving me some real data.
Please always do that if you're going to use any AI software. Please recommend it to give you the sources, because sources are really important, and sometimes sources are fabricated.
And chat can lie. Mm-hmm. It will make up things if it doesn't know the answer, and you got to call it out on it. AI is really good at versatility and content generation. It's good with natural language understanding, and it's good for training, and it's good for adaptability. Where it lacks is finesse or analytical rigor. It really can't analyze anything. Specifically for whiskey, how can it taste?
Yeah. The most I can think of is, at best, what the whiskey journals do. They give you a summary of what you're supposed to be tasting. And that can lead to confirmation bias or some sort of bias, in which case you're going in with an expectation that you're going to smell or taste something. So take it with a grain of salt, people.
Yeah, AI can take 10 reviews and boil those 10 reviews down to a few different specifics that they all have something in common, and that's what it says it is.
It would say that this offering that we had tonight, that we all noted sugar on the nose, herbal earthiness on the palate, and that the finish was long, and you wouldn't get all of the other nuance that the three of us discussed.
Exactly. A concerning point was raised by the panelists. Alcohol industry is far behind when it comes to embracing modern technology. If you think about it, whiskey is how many hundreds years old?
I don't think it's necessary for it to be at the forefront of modern technology, unless you're talking about like physical, tangible equipment that you're using, like your stills or your harvesting machines, things like that.
But as far as like the actual art of it goes, I mean, I don't really know how you can really quantify whether it's far behind or not. I think it's right where it needs to be, and people as of now want to sell to their consumers.
Well, the spirits industry, they believe, is somewhere between 10 and 15 years behind where the e-commerce sector is.
Well, that's because there's laws in place about selling
what can be and what can't.
Yeah, especially online. E-commerce being electronic commerce.
Exactly. So the panel showed the audience how AI technology can be used. Basically what they did is they took 3 different whiskeys that they had out there. They did a tasting of it, and then they compared to what AI had analyzed from all of the different reviews that it had done to see how close they were. If you want to know more about that story, I have posted the link to the YouTube special that they did on it, and you can actually watch that YouTube special to see what your feelings are about spirits in the AI field. Next story I've got is a lawsuit could set a new standard for liquor shipping in the United States. So since the repeal of prohibition way back in 1933, the U.S. liquor distribution follows a three-tiered system. And we've talked about it before, but very briefly, manufacturers must sell their products to a wholesale distributor. A wholesale distributor can only sell to retailers like liquor stores and bars, and then liquor stores and bars sell directly to consumers. Believe it or not, if you go to Buffalo Trace, they are not selling their product directly to you. They are selling the product they sold to a broker, who in turn sold it back to a liquor store to where they picked it up, and it comes back to them. Now, my feeling is they've probably done it via paperwork, because it would be foolish to be shipping liquor all around.
Yeah.
But the three-tiered system is in place.
But shipping is just so popular, no
Yep.
matter what type of product it is.
So over the past 20 years, craft distilling has seen an exponential growth. Hannah, you talked about craft distiller dry fly.
Yep. Just a couple episodes ago in our spotlight on distilleries.
And we've talked about our little distillery in northern Wisconsin, our 45th Parallel craft distiller. Back 20 years ago, there were just dozens of producers. And by the mid-2000s, there are nearly 3,000 craft distillers today. Consequently, some jurisdictions have changed their municipality laws, allowing direct-to-consumer sales. Some of them even include e-commerce regulations that allow the distillery gift shops and their tasting rooms to sell directly to the consumers. Now, I don't know of any of those right now, but that is something that's out there. So much so that a small Los Angeles, California craft distillery is challenging New York State Liquor Authority in federal court. The liquor distribution and regulations are, of course, vary state by state, like I mentioned. In New York, wholesale and retail distribution is handled by private entities. The case is titled The Obscure Distillery versus Lily M. Fan. Obscure Distillery is the California distiller of spirits. They include some rye whiskey that they make with some American chestnut tree trimmings sourced in New York.
Wow, that's different.
Lily M. Fan is the chair of the New York State Liquor Authority and has been since 2023. She is being sued in her official capacity with the State Liquor Authority. The Obscure Distillery's filing alleges a discriminatory burden on the interstate commerce that prevents out-of-state distilleries from competing in New York on equal terms with in-state distilleries.
Ooh.
It's a pretty big deal because it's constitutional that there can't be discriminatory burdens in interstate commerce. You should be able to sell anywhere you want. So they're testing the Constitution here.
That's interesting, because that could have bigger impacts across the board rather than just between California and New York.
Absolutely.
It's about who gets what placement on a shelf, if they get placement at all.
Exactly. The Obscure Distillery's filing highlights the restrictions on out-of-state distilleries shipping to consumers in New York. In August 2024, New York Governor Kathy Hochul signed Senate Bill S04E10 WftA, which basically says it expands the capacity of the state's small spirits, cider, and mead producers to ship directly to consumers in the state of New York.
So they, for the New York distillers, they get to circumnavigate the three-tier hierarchy and skip the broker, essentially,
Exactly.
and go straight to. But if you're an out-of-state distiller selling product in New York, you got to go through all three, which means that the out-of-state distiller incurs a higher cost
Exactly.
to get their product on the shelf.
California's distiller here, Obscure, they want to sell to the New York consumers because they're getting some of their components to make this product
from New York.
Okay. But they can't go in because they don't have a reciprocal agreement to where New York can't sell to California, and California can't sell to New York. So therefore the suit comes into place. Here in April, this past April on the 16th, Obscure Distillery alleges because California and New York do not have those shipping reciprocity, they can't obtain an out-of-state direct shipper's license. The file argues that prevents it and similar businesses from facing an unconstitutional ban on interstate commerce, and that New York has created an unfair trade barrier violating the U.S. Constitution's Commerce Clause. This is huge. Now, I can't believe that this little distillery is
I know.
very big.
The first thing that popped into my head, they're taking a very large swing at it. From a very little fist. I mean, I'm picturing Popeye here,
Yep.
taking a big swing at someone who's way, way, way bigger and probably with a lot more capital to burn than an obscure little distillery over in California.
So the California distillers' attorneys are doing this pro bono as well. That's pretty cool. I'm really watching this because I think this is setting the stage for the removal of the three-tiered system.
Oh, and I'm sure there are a ton of craft distillers who are watching the situation as well, because they know that their biggest barrier is often brokerage fees and everything else, and not to mention distance. I mean, you do have a California business who, you know, it's California. They're a bit chunkier in their monetary capability than a lot of us littler states like Idaho. But you wonder about distilleries like Dry Fly, like 45th Parallel, who may be thinking, I really want to get out there into a bigger market and share my product nationwide more. And Dry Fly's already been relatively successful at that. I think right now they're sitting at around 35 states have at least one of their products sitting on a shelf. But this could have a lot of effect on the income, the production, the growth of a heck of a lot of craft distilleries.
Absolutely.
It isn't necessarily related, but it kind of is. I work at a music store right now, and oftentimes we will get customers seeking to sell their instruments back to us. And we will 9 out of 10 times tell them the best way to do so would be to sell privately. And the reason why is because if they were to sell it to us, which we would be happy to take their instruments and purchase, we'd only be able to buy it back for really not that much. And the reason why is because of potential repairs or cleanings that we would have to do in order to sell it to our customers.
And not to mention, you have to buy it at a low price to where you can sell it at market value.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that is very much a thing. It compares to that broker system.
Yes.
So you get more by selling it to the party that you're actually trying to sell it to.
And you wonder if, however this plays out, if it ends up that we take down the three-tier system, whatever distilleries are paying to their brokers, to these distributors, that fee goes away.
Exactly.
So does the price of the product come down because they're not having to
It
spend
depends on
that
the
fee any
demand.
more? Or, and this is what I find more likely, or they increase their capital because now they don't have to spend money on that fee. I think that's the more likely.
And they dump it back into their business.
Into growth, into experimentation like this Heaven Hill.
And making more product and what have you.
And maybe making it more available.
It's hard to say what exactly is going to happen. I think another factor to consider is overall demand. Because now instead, like if you were to get rid of the three-tiered system and you get to skip the whole broker fees and whatnot, you could just sell directly to consumers. You'd have to address now a whole different demand.
Well, we're out here in Idaho. And we like 45th Parallel.
We do, yeah.
I can't call 45th Parallel and place an order and they can't ship it to me.
Right.
Yeah, just like I can't get an Eastman violin directly from Eastman. I gotta get it from a music store.
I mean, there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is, there's also a precedent already out there. The wine industry has been doing this for years. Wine industry can sell interstate.
And they have tastings.
And they have tastings that they can sell right out of
Their
out of their
own
facilities.
stocks, yeah.
So
does the demand differ in wine than it does in bourbon because of that?
well, I would say that if I go to a craft distillery anywhere, let's say Montana, and I want to buy something from them, can I? You know, I can if it's wine, but I can't if I can't have them ship it to me.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it maybe there, and I just want to have it available. So very interesting. A lot more to come on that. My third story, my last news story here is no one wants to talk about the oversupply of Scotch and bourbon. Over this series, we've had various news stories talking about the struggles of tariffs and the struggles of too much inventory. But right now, we are dealing with the last 20 years of growth. Everything about whiskey has been nothing but positive. I mean, I would have loved to have had been in this whiskey thing 20 years ago.
I wouldn't have been of drinking age at that time, but
You would have been the sole enjoyer of this family.
Yes.
you could have had a lot of stuff in the bunker ready for me when I turned
There
of
you go.
age.
Yeah. Besides a Jeep that broke down.
So the decades of the late 20th century saw stagnant or even declining sales. Scotch, bourbon, Irish whiskey have undergone a huge renaissance in these last 20 years. New whiskey styles have emerged. American craft distillers are doing American single malt. But even the most positive trends and cycles eventually hit a plateau. I think we're sitting on a plateau right now. We've just gotten back to pre-COVID levels.
Yeah.
Sales of whiskey now are what they were back in 2019. We had this huge bubble from 2019 to 2023 that everybody was buying crazy. Well, whiskey can't respond to market trends instantaneously. They got to make it. They got to put it in a barrel. They got to sit that barrel on a shelf for 6, 8, 10, 12, 20 years. And then when it's ready, does the public want it? Well, right now sales have flattened, or worse, they're kind of declining. And across the industry, there's a pool of surplus whiskey, and it's growing. We talk about Scotch, and we're not really Scotch drinkers. We dabble in it a little bit.
Check out the whiskey archaeology episode.
Yeah.
There you
That
go.
one was a fun one.
Yeah, and we
Talked about Glenlivet.
There you go. Scotland has seen a number of gluts over the centuries that they've been making Scotch. Most recently, in the 1980s, there was so much whiskey that wasn't being sold, they called it a whiskey lock.
A whiskey lake,
Yes, LOCH, a whiskey lake.
which is lake.
Yep, dozens and dozens of distilleries were shuttered. Some never recovered. And it was decades before the industry finally corrected. In the early 2000s, single malt Scotch production began to sustain a positive growth, and it was largely due to the fact there was so much Scotch sitting in aged casks that they finally figured out, you know what, this stuff is pretty good. Let's get it out there to the people. Due to the upturn, some single malt distilleries invested heavily, laying down even more casks than they did before the glut happened. Distilleries expanded. Macallan, Glenlivet, Glenfiddich all sank millions of pounds into the new construction, doubling or even tripling their volumes. Well, obviously Scotch whiskey sales boomed, and then all of a sudden it's starting to wane. They're sitting again, the biggest concern they have, are we going into another lock, and how deep is this one going to be? It's to the point where in 2017, 8 years ago, the industry leaders began to observe that now there's going to be a glut of 5-year-old whiskey. And then in 10 years, there's going to be an embarrassment of supply. They're very concerned. Here in our country, we've got bourbon. The bourbon industry isn't going to be quite as hurt by it because if you think about it, Scotch is sold all over the world. Mm-hmm. The Scotch purchasers are in India, they're in South Africa, they're wherever.
Well, and Scotch also takes a lot longer to mature than bourbon does, so it takes longer for them to right the wheel if they've gone too far one way or another, because the lowest age you'll get in a Scotch is traditionally 12 years, but you could have a 4-year-old bourbon.
And it's perfectly serviceable.
Yeah.
I see tariffs playing a big thing in this, honestly, because if there's such a big tariff on Scotch, simply because it's from a different country, I mean, that's going to lessen the demand. Likewise, all this tariff building and all this tariff causing is going to convince other countries around the world that I don't know if I want to buy bourbon. So it's definitely affecting demand. And that's Econ 101.
Yep.
You learn about supply and demand because it is so quintessential to any kind of commerce. Demand is very much a thing. I think it is going to be affected by tariffs, which is probably going to result in those locks, if you will, or just an oversupply of them.
Well, the signs of oversupply were beginning to appear last year. So much so that MGP, one of the largest suppliers of contract whiskey in the U.S., saw such a drop in client demand that they announced that they would stop production and start focusing on their own brands. So they're not making near as much contract whiskey as they used to. Did a little research on that. Roughly 40% of their business was their own product, 60% was for somebody else. They've stopped 60% of their production.
I mean, if they're going to turn it inwards and focus on their own stuff, that tells me that they are wanting their own products to survive, and they're trying to give their products the biggest leg up that they can by putting more attention on them.
And I'll be the first to tell you, Lux Row Distillers people, George Remus people, go out there and look at
Blood
those.
Oath.
Blood Oath, absolutely. Look at those products.
There's some good stuff. Old Ezra.
Yep.
There's some really, really great MGP products. Don't be a snob about them. They are some major sleepers out there.
And Diageo, everybody's heard of Diageo. They've instituted a month-long shutdown on their bullet facilities. And it looks like it may go even further. There's a lot of things that are happening here in this country. Contract whiskey market, it kind of provides a window into the dynamics here. Prices for barrels of aged bourbon, 2022, a 4-year-old Kentucky bourbon was averaging around $4,000 a barrel. Today, there's a lot of 6 to 8-year-old whiskey available, and prices have corrected to $2,200 to $2,500 just in 2 to 3 years. It's ridiculous.
Basically a 50% drop.
And a 4-year bourbon now can be found for as little as $1,200 a barrel. So maybe we should snap up a barrel or two.
Maybe.
So the question marks, even with the industry mitigating its current supply and demand mismatch, fallout's inevitable. There's a lot of whiskey maturing in warehouses. I found these numbers just
astronomical.
I don't even know how to say it.
Yeah.
14.3 million barrels are aging in Kentucky right now. That's like 3 barrels for everybody who lives in Kentucky. But
wow.
22 million are aging in Scotland. You know,
Scotland's tiny, isn't it?
Tiny's not even the word for it.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine 22 million barrels of whiskey that are aging in Scotland. So what becomes the portion that doesn't find a home in the drinker's stash? It could be sold cheaply as a bulk spirit. and used in blends. Places like India might be buying some. Or it could become more in the RTD industry, the ready-to-drink folks. Or it could just end up sitting there for years and years and years, getting older, and perhaps eventually seeding the next generation's love of whiskeys.
I was just about to ask that, and I didn't know if I was being crazy naive or, hopeful, because usually I'm not exactly cynical, but I'm more a realist who prefers to think positively. Instead of maybe 25-year-old whiskeys, maybe you get more 25-year-old whiskeys because of this. I don't know.
I bet you do in Scotch.
Yeah.
I bet you do in Scotch.
And Scotch is really reliant on age, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe it could be a change. Whiskey is so old. Alcohol is just so old.
Yeah.
So, 100 years, 50 years are mere blinks of an eye.
Yeah.
To the art of making those.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, it might be just another era.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I definitely think that Scotch, for sure, has proved its merit over the course of however many hundreds of years, that it's been a staple for that part of the world. And I think that now we can say that bourbon has also kind of passed that same test. And one way or another, these two whiskeys, and of course all of their relatives in the world, are gonna find a way to stick around.
The Irishes and the Canadians.
Yeah.
And
Right.
The Taiwanese, the Japanese.
Basically,
from India.
Yeah.
Basically, as long as there is grain going,
We'll be
growing.
making we'll
Honestly,
be
seriously.
making moonshine.
Yep.
We'll be making liquor.
Grain is central to human civilization. We recently just watched a documentary where some claim was made about what made us human. And fire, according to this person, was what made us human. And then I ended up saying, because we watched an episode of that same series when they started talking about bread. Bread is what made us civilization instead of nomads, hunter-gatherers. So as long as there is grain, something will be happening.
Yep. So a couple of new bottles for our next whiskey scavenger hunt. I love this story. E.H. Taylor is now part of the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. So every fall, the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection comes out. You get all of these aged products. You get some
Sazerac 18, Eagle Rare 17, it's the Pappies.
the Thomas Handy, George T. Staggs, William Weller, Eagle Rare.
It's a celebration of
And-
Buffalo Trace.
It's the kind of thing where you bring it to a celebration and that person who brings it in is a friend of a friend knows a guy who brought it in.
Yep. And they become our new best friend.
Yep.
So now there's going to be a 6 bottle in the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. E.H. Taylor Bottled in Bond Bourbon. So the bottled in bond rules has to be done in a single season. It has to come from a single distillery. It has to be put in a bonded warehouse for a minimum of 4 years. It has to be monitored by the federal government. All these things.
And be 100 proof.
And it has to be 100 proof.
And Colonel Taylor, their products are traditionally bottled in bond anyway.
Yes. So this one, this bottled in bond, there's no real specifics out there yet on it. It's believed it's going to be from their low rye mash bill, which would be consistent with the other products. There's some suspicions that will be 10 years or older. It's just going to be a fine bourbon. And the sad thing is,
we're not going to get it.
For us, it's probably going to be another bottle that I want that I can't get. But
You can't have it.
these bottles are typically put out in lotteries, or I know a guy who knows a guy, like Alora was saying.
Friend of a friend knows a guy who blah, blah, blah.
So here's my advice, folks. They're not coming out till the fall.
Make friends.
Make friends, and work your way on to Santa's nice list somehow.
Yeah.
Because maybe you'll get lucky.
And if you are, just...
I know a guy.
Yeah. I know a family.
Yeah. Jim Beam, my last one we should be looking for. Jim Beam's Knob Creek has just unveiled a new cast strength single barrel whiskey program.
That kind of scares me.
So Jim Beam's got a lot of product out there. They've got their, I'm going to call it low end. They're Jim Beam.
Yeah, they're Jim Beam.
You know, they've also got Basil Hayden. Mm-hmm. You know, Basil Hayden, it's high rye mash bill, bottled at 80 proof. They've got their Knob Creek, which provides 100 proof whiskeys with age statements on them. Mm-hmm. Basic Knob Creek has a 9-year-old age statement. It's twice as old as the Jim Beam original. And then we reviewed a 15-year-old. We've got some 12-year-old. Knob Creek rye whiskey has 7 and 10-year-old statements. Then there's Baker's. You know, we're Baker's fans around here. And of course, Booker's. I love the Booker product.
Yep, you do.
Late legendary mass distiller Booker No created Knob Creek back in 1992. He's got a son Fred and a grandson
that's who I was thinking.
Freddie.
We love Freddie.
And the brand has become a favorite whiskey with fans over the years due to its affordability and quality of its core bourbons and ryes. Knob Creek is getting a significant upgrade with the expansion announcement of its single barrel program. It's now going to include cask strength whiskeys. Knob Creek already has a single barrel expression available, but these whiskeys are bottled at 120 proof across the board. The new Knob Creek single barrel select cask strength includes bourbon and rye whiskey bottled, as it says right on the name, at cask strength. Back in 2019, the state of Idaho went to Kentucky, went to Knob Creek, and they bought
4 bourbons, 2 ryes.
And
it changed my life.
they were phenomenal products.
That's not even like the best word for it. The word for it doesn't exist. That's how life-changing those ones really were.
They open your eyes beyond what you already had open.
The batch number 1 bourbon still sits. I think we even still have a couple of the ryes.
We do have some ryes left.
We've just been so covetous and don't want to open them because once they're gone, they're gone.
There are dusties.
They're just there with us.
So the bourbons are going to be bottled with ABVs of 55 to 65% or 110 to 130 proof. The ryes are going to be bottled with 100 to 120 proof. And in a statement from 8th generation distiller Freddie, when my grandfather created Knob Creek, I'm trying to be Freddie here, he made a whiskey that stood out. It was bold and robust, and there were no shortcuts. With our single barrel select program, we're paying tribute to that legacy by offering fans the chance to experience Knob Creek in its most authentic form. These new barrel select cask strengths are going to be available at $70,
okay,
which is really reasonable.
Yeah,
it is.
Retailers are going to be able, retailers in states I would imagine, are going to be able to visit the James B. Beam Distilling Company, taste through samples, and then select their own barrels for bottling. And then for those unable to travel to Kentucky, they can have those samples sent to them. And then consumers can also do the same thing. We can go to the distillery and we can join the private barrel club and we can pick our own barrels.
That's really tempting.
Yeah,
that is really, really, really tempting.
So,
That's a attainable goal.
Yes.
The E.H. Taylor Antique Collection is a very big dream, but it is not an attainable goal as far as I'm concerned. But this is something that I think we could see an actual return on.
And we as consumers actually have a chance at these.
Yeah.
Because let's say your liquor store buys one of these barrels and puts it out on the shelf.
Yeah.
It is a store pick.
Yeah. Or you could have a bar pick, which is how a lot of our, of that 2019 release era was. It was,
The state partnered with bars
yeah,
and let the bars pick.
yeah. And it was a lovely decision. They did, our bartenders did a really great job across the board.
Yeah, very good, very good. So these are just a few of our latest releases that we've talked about. As always, to learn more about these and many more offerings, as well as other news stories, go to Whiskey for the Ages episode archive page on our website. You'll find links to all of our podcast episodes, their corresponding news pages, links to Alora's songs, links to Hannah's archaeology episodes, links to the actual research that Hannah did for it.
There were a lot of different sites that I looked at for that story. And again, if you guys haven't listened to it yet, please do. That one was so much fun to uncover. Pun
There you
intended.
go.
Unintended, digging up the original Glenlivet distillery over there in Scotland and learning all about what made that distillery so special and how it impacted Scotch as we know it today.
And I'm probably going to see if I can work on another episode as well for next season.
Yeah.
I can't believe that we're already at the end.
Yep.
But
40 episodes
I know.
in the cloud.
You know, this
How
is,
about that?
and next season is going to be our 50th. It'll have to be absolutely special for that one.
We'll have to
But-
think of something real good to do there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I want to see where this food and whiskey pairing journey really takes us, so I'll be working on something. And of course, Dad has to have his whiskey history. You can't have one of these seasons without a whiskey history episode.
And yeah, we're going to have some guests. We like our guests. We like to have people come in and sit with us.
And we'll do our distillery and whiskey spotlights like we've continuously done since the beginning of our journey. I'm going to include another archaeology episode, guys. That one was just too much fun to not do a second time. I loved everything about that. So I'm really excited. Thank you all so much for being with us so far. 4 seasons in the bag.
Yeah, and it's about to be 5 seasons shortly, yeah. We're really, really excited, and we'll probably end that season as we traditionally do with a whiskey review chosen by you guys. So please tune in to our articles, our reviews, our podcast episodes, and be sure to send your comments with us. Like, tell us what ideas you have, what ideas you'd like for us to talk about, whether that be in articles, whether that be in reviews, or in podcasts. We'd love to hear from you always. And if you or someone you know is interested and you're brand new to our show, thank you all so much for coming in and listening to us. Please consider subscribing to the show. Subscribers do get early notifications as soon as new episodes are uploaded, which is awesome. So yeah, please consider tuning in.
All right. I don't have anything else to add.
But thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank
you for another great, awesome season. And as always, I'm so happy to do this at home and not remote. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.